A Friday night massacre took place within the federal government where they laid off thousands and thousands of federal employees. And the one that most people obviously heard about were the firings at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. decided to fire, I think it was 1,100, doctors, scientists, regular workers, like, let's get them all out of here. And then immediately they had to be like, hey, actually, sorry, we kind of need all y'all back. That's been hogging the headlines since Friday. But honestly, equally as important as that, and of course, these people were not told, you need to get back, we messed up because Kennedy's an idiot, is what happened at the Department of Education. At the Department of Education, while everyone was distracted by what was happening at the CDC, Linda McMahon, former wrestling magnate turned Secretary of Education, fired everyone in the Office of Special Education. ESE, Special Education at the Department of Education, was effectively killed on Friday night. Let me read you this from USA Today. The U.S. Department of Education fired nearly everyone in the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services in a wave of new layoffs that began on Friday. They also ended a college program known as TRIO, which is located in a different office. All those people were also let go. The firings, which the American Federation of Government Employees Local 252 said they doubled down on the harm to K through 12 students and schools across the country. And in fact, that teachers union, or the government employees union, I should say, said that in a lawsuit filed on Friday in response to the mass layoffs. So the lawsuit has already been fired to hopefully get these people back. But the Trump administration just killed Special Education Services, ESE, for the entire country. They're all gone. Almost every single person is gone. The few that are left are those that were in leadership in that particular division, but all of the workers, anybody who's not like a, high up manager, is gone. So the managers have nobody to manage. They have nothing to do now because there's no people there. Special education services in this country were just gutted on Friday night. And I have received countless, comments and messages and whatever from parents or grandparents of ESE children over the years. Like they tell me they're worried about what Trump could do. They saw what happened in the first term and, reducing funding for the Department of Education. Parents of ESE children already know how difficult it is navigating an underfunded public school system with underfunded teachers. And now that situation for these individuals is about to become exponentially worse because of what happened Friday night that nobody wants to friggin' talk about. And maybe I'm a little more worked up for this because obviously this is a story that is near and dear to me. My wife is an ESE department head teacher in the public school system here in the state of Florida. Like, she runs the entire department, and yes, she has her classes every period. This affects her. This affects my life. This affects the quality of education that she can give to those students. When I told her about this, we were on our way back. We had gone to see a football game this weekend, and I was looking for news, and this was there. And I told her, and so we ended up having this 2-hour-long conversation about whether or not it's time for her to just leave her position. She doesn't want to. She loves her job. She loves the students. She loves that she goes in there and can see the progress. She has had students completely nonverbal come into her class at the beginning of a year. And then by the end of that school year, they've opened up. They love her. They talk to her. Nonverbal students find, she is so good and what she does. And it breaks my heart that this is happening to this program. We will not see any funding. I mean, Linda McMahon, again, from the friggin' WWE, has no education experience. I don't even know if she has herself in education. But she's making these decisions. And so what's going to happen is she says, well, we want to give the money to the states and then the states allocate it. Oh, because that works out so effing well every time, right? We have already seen this year states that are cutting Medicaid. And they're cutting Medicaid even though they have the federal funding for it this year. They won't be getting it next year, but they've cut it and reallocated the Medicaid funds from the federal government to other programs because they have such bad budget shortfalls. So even though the government says, okay, we're going to give you the money and it's allocated just for this, the state can still say, cool, but we're going to reallocate it. Okay. We're allowed to do that sometimes. We've seen them do it with disaster relief funds this year. And if you think for a second that these states across the country that are already underfunding public education are not going to do the same thing with all this extra heap of money they get for ESE, then you are kidding yourself, because they absolutely will. Especially in states that have severe budget shortfalls, the states that need this money for education the most, like Alabama and Mississippi and Arkansas and Missouri and Oklahoma. Those schools won't get a dime. They won't get a dime because those Republican-controlled states who are grotesquely underwater, some on the verge of friggin' bankruptcy, they will reallocate the funds and say, oh, well, this is going to make up our budget shortfalls. Or in some states, as we've also seen, they're going to say, well, we're just going to use this and put it in the general pot of money for the state to fund tax cuts for the businesses in our states. They've done that this year too. Education, public education in the United States is dead. They're starting with the ESE, because that's the easiest one, right? We'll go after these folks first. It's a smaller, tiny percentage of the whole school population. So we'll get them first. We'll come for everybody else a little bit later down the road. That is going to happen. That is the plan. They have spelled it out. They have laid it out. 90% of the entire Department of Education right now is furloughed because of the government shutdown, and a lot of those people will be fired and will never return to the job because this has been part of the plan. It's part of Project 2025. Dismantle public education, leave it to the states, which is BS. They don't want public education. They want a dumbed down population because the only people in this country that vote Republicans are the top 1% and then the dumbest 80%. That's what it is. If you're smart, if you're educated, if you're trained to think logically and critically about things, you don't vote Republican. So they want to keep you dumb and they want to keep you poor so that you focus on these stupid culture war issues instead of the pocketbook issues that actually affect you. When you're educated, you know not to fall for it. And that's why Republicans want to dismantle public education. Thanks for watching today, everybody. And don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it. You can follow the links in the description of this video.